Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new H1Z1 video. In today's video we're going to be talking about why H1Z1 in Preseason 3 was so great. The structure of today's video is going to be basically comparing Preseason 3 H1Z1 to Preseason 2, Preseason 4 and Preseason 5. After we've established the differences between old H1Z1, we'll of course compare that to Z1 Battle Royale. And today we'll basically have a look at why people want Preseason 3 to come back in 2021. Now fair warning, if you guys don't want Preseason 3 to come back, well, you're not going to like this video. However, I've made a video comparing all of the differences between Preseason 3 and Z1 Battle Royale, which includes the good things and the bad things. Today more specifically, I want to talk about why people resonate with that time period so much, what are the different reasons, how was the game different, and also maybe if EG7 are curious about this question, hopefully I can answer some of their questions too. Now starting off with Preseason 2, why was Preseason 3 so much better than Preseason 2? You know, the funny thing is, I speak to a lot of the community members, and you're probably saying, I'm asking for Preseason 2 back. I know some of you guys are, but of course this is the more popular topic, so I'm sort of generalising with that question, but why are people not asking for Preseason 2 back? Well, in Preseason 3 they actually fixed a lot of the bugs and a lot of the issues that were in Preseason 2. There were quite a lot of issues with emote exploits, so basically people were able to emote while moving, while shooting. So if you never played H1 in that time period, I'm sure you can imagine what that was like. People were literally just emoting and strafing around while shooting 100% accurately. It was a very overpowered exploit, and of course that completely destroys the combat of the game. Now sometimes exploits can be cool in H1Z1, but the emote exploit definitely was something that was way too much, and that was something that was nerfed in Preseason 3. They'd done a slight nerf to crouch spamming, but not enough of a nerf which made it feel clunky or anything like that. There was a light-handed approach to changing crouch spamming in Preseason 3. They also nerfed the AK-47 because it was super sprayable, and I think it had a faster recoil reset. The AK actually was the meta in Preseason 2. The Preseason 3 update in H1Z1 was the first update that added a new point of interest, which is the airstrip, obviously south of the military base, which gave you a more balanced experience within that spawn. You had another option to go to instead of just the dev camp, and overall, that update was very welcomed by players and people were very happy with the airstrip. It was easy, it was simple, it done what it was supposed to, it wasn't a complicated POI. They added the kill counter to the game, they changed the ranking system so it'll be more easily understood and less emphasis on when you get your kills. It was roughly a 5 kill win for royalty. It was the first season they had a ranked reward, so you actually got the royalty backflip for royalty in Preseason 3. They fixed a lot of bugs, like the reload bug, the endgame UI, so you would basically die and instantly go back to the menu. They completely fixed that. Infinite inventory, there were some shelves that couldn't be shot through. You could actually solo queue with a group of players, so you could get 5 people and go into solos and basically team in solos. They fixed a lot of issues with vehicles auto-accelerating and auto-turbo. They actually fixed jump shotting being accurate in Preseason 3, which is something that we currently have in Z1 Battle Royale. That is something that was actually nerfed in Preseason 3. There was a bug with procoagulants which would allow you to use them instantly, which was fixed. They added proximity looting, so you could just tab over a loot bag. Now of course in Preseason 3 you couldn't move and loot, that was something that was added later on. And Preseason 3 is when they added the weapon lock for high ping players. So there was definitely a huge step in the right direction with Preseason 3. It wasn't a crazy update with a ton of new content, but we got a new point of interest, we got a few balancing issues fixed, and of course we had a lot of bug fixes, which was overall a good update. Which of course leads into my next point. Why not Preseason 4 then? You know, Preseason 3 only had a smaller update, why not Preseason 4? Preseason 4 was the biggest update to date within H1Z1. They changed the hit markers from red to yellow. They actually recoded the AR-15 so that you could no longer shoot before the recoil resets to get an accurate shot. As you guys may be aware, in Preseason 3, you don't have to wait for the visual cue for shooting. There is a timing associated with it, which was changed in Preseason 4. This is whenever they started buffing the shotgun. Car hit markers, they heavily nerfed vehicles, they were noisy, they were slower. Whenever they started to take damage, they became extremely annoying, and it sort of killed one of the main fun factors in H1, which is driving about in your car, trying to get angles on people. They basically completely nerfed cars, and it was quite annoying overall. They actually made it harder to get royalty, which you could say is a good thing or a bad thing depending on your point of view. It definitely meant that less sort of average players were getting royalty. This is the first season that they'd done aggressive region locking to stop Chinese players from playing on like American servers and stuff like that, which if the game has a healthy player base, of course that is good, but in a game like Z1 Battle Royale with a few hundred players online, that obviously would not be something that's good. The movement speed and the crouch were also changed in that time period. A lot of people like the Preseason 4 crouch, myself included, but overall your sprint speed was a lot faster. And finally, for map changes, they started to change the interiors of office buildings, and they added boarded up buildings to residentials and city areas around the map, meaning that you could no longer enter any house in H1Z1. Preseason 4 is whenever they started to make wholesale changes, and to me that's whenever H1Z1 started to feel like a slightly different game. It was still the old H1Z1 that we knew and loved. To me that was definitely the first step into trying to make H1Z1 a competitive commodity, as opposed to just an arcadey battle royale which is supposed to be played for fun. So with all of that being said, why not Preseason 5? In my opinion, Preseason 5 is one of the worst updates they've done in Preseason H1Z1. They completely changed all of the gas rings and spawns, which would allow you to spawn in the edge of the map. It completely killed the whole flow of the match. They made faster gas rings to stop people from looting for too long at the start of the match, which made it so much worse for new players who wanted to just go and spawn, in Misty Peak or Hospital and go and spawn somewhere else by themselves. It basically forced people to move constantly. It didn't allow people to play the game the way they did in Preseason 3 and Preseason 4. The flow of the match was just so different. It became a lot more difficult for people to get high kills, and it made it a lot more difficult for new players to survive into the later stages of the game. They tried to refine the experience. Ultimately, it pushed the game in the wrong direction, and we had so many bad safe zones and so many bad areas on the map, which just weren't enjoyable to play. From Preseason 1 to 3, the way the gas rings worked is that they would be centered around Pleasant Valley. So during the first safe zone, at least one part of the circle will always be touching Pleasant Valley, which means that there is absolutely no reason for players to be around the edge of the map looting, unless that's the way that they're trying to play the game, trying to get prepared, trying to get lammies, trying to get cars, ammo, grenades. That was a fun experience for some players, and it would allow them to join the action later, whereas for players who wanted to be more aggressive, of course, they will make their way to Pleasant Valley after spawning in their point of interest. Before Preseason 5, H1Z1 used to be the game that you spawn in, you would have insanely crazy action, and then as the match progresses over a course of time, you will start to see people trickling through. You'll see people coming through the storm, and you will see random players kind of driving about on their way to Pleasant Valley and in around that area. And then of course you will get a constant flow of action throughout the match. Of course it didn't always play out that way because each game is different, but generally the flow of the game was a lot more organic and it was less forced. Since Preseason 5, half the players die off spawn because they're forced to spawn together, and they're forced to spawn in different ways. The safe zones are different, and generally what seems to happen more often than not is you'll spawn in, you'll kill somebody or get a kill or two, and then you'll see almost nobody for the majority of the match until the very end, and then you will start to get a little bit of action towards the end of the match, which generally creates a boring experience for everybody. They added dynamic gas waves, which would change the gas speed based on how many players remain. This is whenever they started adding some of the worst points of interest, such as Coy's Car Salvage outside of PV, the supermarket east of Cranberry, and Ponyville Farm, which pretty much killed all of the action that was in and around the trailer park at that time. They nerfed laminated armor spawns so that they no longer spawned in groups, and they added them to airdrops, meaning that you could never go to like Misty Peak and get a bunch of lammies. They announced that they were nerfing hipfire in that update as well. As you guys have seen from all of the gameplay we've watched in today's video, they changed the lighting and colours in Preseason 4 and Preseason 5, which in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinion, it was nowhere near as nice as it used to look in Preseason 3, and in my opinion, it became much harder to see people, and generally visibility started to get much worse since Preseason 4. Those are the reasons why those updates at the time were not as good as Preseason 3.
Hi, I'm Anthony Castoro.
And I'm David Mendelson.
And we're here to talk to you about the combat update.
Listen, I think we can all agree that we should just definitely go back to the combat update. Way better than Preseason 3. If anybody from EG7 is watching, please go back to the combat update. Thank you guys for watching. Okay, see you later. Bye, 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 bye.
We hope you enjoy your stay.
But seriously though, I think we can all agree that the combat update was trash. We've all heard the story a million times. They changed everything, the animations, the colours, they added the hellfire, they changed the recoil, they changed the bullet drop, they changed the bullet speed, they changed everything. We do not need to go back to the combat update. I think everybody can agree on that, so we're just going to skim over that. And actually, the only thing that I think is really worth mentioning is that since the combat update, they've basically been trying to make updates to make H1Z1 more like old H1Z1. One of the issues that they had in actually reverting the combat update, which a lot of people wanted, was the fact that they had completely upgraded their engine. In fact, a lot of developers told us that it was impossible to go back, which I think that, again, we can all agree that that probably was not the truth, and I can only imagine that they had so many requests and so much abuse to get Preseason 3 back that at a certain point, to make their own lives easier, they basically had to tell us that it wasn't possible. I think from that perspective, you can completely understand why they told us that Preseason 3 was not possible. I want to skip forward in time a little bit to Z1 Battle Royale, because we will get off topic if we go into all of the updates that happened after the combat update, but in a nutshell, it was basically the developer's job to try and make the game as close to old H1Z1 as possible, without going back to the old engine. There were so many things that existed in old H1Z1 that the developers couldn't really understand what exactly to do, because they had requests coming in from absolutely everywhere, and I just want to explain some of the reasons why I think the Preseason free is still currently better than Z1 Battle Royale. I have to give huge credit to Nanchi, because whenever they took over H1Z1, they completely embraced what Preseason free meant to the community, and they decided that what they're going to do is take a local build of Preseason free and try to make as much of that run on live server as possible. In the short time that they had control of H1Z1, they brought back the old recoil, which of course it is still slightly different, I have to be honest. The recoil and all that kind of stuff is slightly different, but they brought back the core feeling of H1Z1 with the recoil, the bullet drop, and bullet speed, which again, some of the developers argued with the community that that was not the best idea. I'm super happy that Nanchi fully embraced it, and they started to make the game that the community wanted again. Unfortunately, for one reason or another, Nanchi had to cease development of Z1 Battle Royale, and of course when it went back to Daybreak, it received 0 further updates. So why is Preseason free better than Z1 Battle Royale in its current state? The Battle Royale experience and map felt so much better back then. The world really felt alive back then. There was less cluttered POIs everywhere, more open sight lines and places to fight long range with an AR. The cities had more broken down cars, and there was a lot of trees everywhere, which created a different kind of feeling experience. Of course, the lighting and colours that are currently in Z1BR, as far as I'm concerned, are nowhere near as nice as they used to be. The pacing and the map played a lot better with the aforementioned changes to gas and safe zones. Currently you get less players in the middle of the match, and you're basically getting a few kills off the start, doing absolutely nothing for 5 or 10 minutes, and then fighting people at the end. You're now travelling around the edges of the map looking for people, and overall just the experience is not as good. The loot distribution was a lot more fun. It allowed you to go to Misty Peak, it allowed you to go to Hospital and get tons of loot and cars before entering the match. There's 180 player lobbies back then as well, and of course Preseason free was so fun because there was a ton of new players. Hopefully if EG7 do the right things with H1Z1, we can of course get back to that kind of feeling again. But 180 player lobbies were just absolutely insane, and it was so much fun to play that back in Preseason free. Now everything is too refined, and we're basically forced into different situations. Currently in every single building we have 1 or 2 AR spawns. A shotgun is literally in every single building in the entire map. The shotgun has been buffed over the course of all of the pre-seasons, and especially after the combat update, to the point where it's now absolutely ridiculous at 10 meters, which in Preseason free it was nothing like that. The Preseason free shotgun forced you to get close, because if you were too far away from people, the pellet spread was not consistent and you weren't guaranteed to hit your shot. The Preseason free combat and meta, which just felt a whole lot better. There was a whole lot of stupid little fun things you could do in H1Z1 back in the day, like climbing trees with arrows. You could jump backwards over objects. You could take batteries and spark plugs out of cars. You could sit on players who were prone and they wouldn't be able to get up. You could moonwalk with binoculars. Overall the feeling and the immersion that you had with the animations and movement was so much fun. It was smoother, it was more satisfying, it was enjoyable to see how your character moved with a complete set of animations. It was great to learn and to master those to improve your combat skill, so that the game is more than just going for headshots and just going for one-shots with the shotgun. There was a lot more to H1Z1 back in the day than just being good at aiming. With the animations, your character used to literally levitate above the ground, which helped everything feel silky. The running and strafe animations were snappy and aggressive, which had a great feeling. The jumping momentum was amazing and allowed you to make good plays while strafing and jumping. The first person animations were good and completely filled. There was a shot block animation that existed back then. The weapon swap animations were cleaner. Just everything overall felt complete. Z1 Battle Royale has tried to emulate some of the features from Preseason free with Nanchi. All that they were able to push to the live server in the short time that they had was a closer combat system to Preseason free, with a few changes to animations. The combat is still very different and there are a lot of key differences. The AR-15 and AK recoil are not as smooth, simply because the code was different and the design data was different, meaning that things look similar but aren't exactly how they used to be. The shotgun has been buffed several times, as I said, and has become an all-purpose weapon. Back in old H1Z1, people used to run 2 ARs and an AK. That type of diversity of choice is no longer available to us because of how powerful the shotgun has become. If you wanted to use grenades in Preseason free, you had to make a choice and drop one of your weapons. You didn't get shot blocked by crouching or shooting over things that you should be able to shoot over. Back in H1Z1, there was far less COD rushing because whenever you hopped out of a car, you actually faced the front of the vehicle, which made COD rushing a lot more skillful, considering the fact that you had to get right in people's faces to make sure that all of your pellets hit. All of the pistols were fun to use, had better recoil, and overall a much better playstyle than what they have now. The sniper was so much fun to use as well because it didn't take too long to rechamber the bullets, and generally it was just a really fun weapon to use, which of course it is now, but it has to be said it was slightly better before. In my opinion, Z1 Battle Royale has brought back the defining mechanic of H1Z1, which is 2-tapping, but there's such a bigger picture, you need to wrap that with a lot of good things, and again, Nanji just didn't have the opportunity to do that. Currently with Z1, everything kind of feels a little bit clunky, the animations are a little bit janky, it kind of feels like you're stuck in the mud all the time, everything doesn't feel quite as smooth as it used to, the safe zones are completely messed up, and the gas is way too strong, and I'm talking about H1Z1 with 150 player lobbies, not the dynamic safe zones, which overall are a really positive thing they added. It's the experience for players at any skill level in Z1 Battle Royale, it has to be said, is currently nowhere near as good as it was before. The game doesn't look as good, the game doesn't feel as good, the loot distribution is absolutely terrible, the way safe zones work is absolutely terrible as well, the amount of damage that you take from gas is far too high. You know, since the combat update they've messed with car spawns, they've messed with so many different things that it's so hard to actually remember all of them, but there's so many little things that make a big difference to this game, which if we continue with Z1 Battle Royale, those things will be lost forever, and truthfully we won't get H1Z1 back to where it should be. And I honestly believe that if everybody had a chance to play Preseason Free again, I think it would change a lot of people's minds and they would finally understand why Preseason Free was so great. Overall, the combat was fun, arcadey, wasn't emphasised in competitive play, it was emphasised on fun. I have to reiterate that Nanji were on the right track, and it's just such a shame that we never got to see what they could do. But to say that we should continue with Z1 Battle Royale in its current state, with the popularity that it's had over the last couple of years, compared to Preseason Free, which was hugely popular among streamers and players, I think it's the best opportunity that H1Z1's got in the short term to get a lot of players. I think it would be amazing if EG7 brought Preseason Free back on a separate SKU, so that players who wanted to play Z1 Battle Royale could still play Z1, still play hosted games, and still have access to that server. But for the players who want Preseason Free, if that was available on like a test server, or just a separate client aside from Z1 Battle Royale, I'm pretty confident that it would have a lot more players, a more sustainable player base. Not only would it help EG7 gain the community's trust, but it'll give us a lot more energy and a lot more anticipation for any future projects that they decide to do with H1Z1. If they were to put this version up on a separate client, it would allow the community to tell them what they like about Preseason Free and what they don't. Currently, H1Z1 does not have a dev team, and I highly encourage you to go check out my last video if you're not sure what's going on with H1Z1 and EG7, the new company who took over. But guys, to finish off the video, in a nutshell, why was Preseason Free so great? Everything just felt complete. The overall Battle Royale experience was great. The map, the looting, the cars, the combat felt smooth and fun. It was very balanced compared to the games that we've had since. The animations and player movement was great. Just overall, the experience of dropping into H1Z1 and Preseason Free has never been recreated by any other Battle Royale game in my opinion. It was easy, it was simple, it was fun, it was arcadey, it wasn't meant to be taken too seriously, and above all, people loved playing it despite all of the problems that it has. That's why H1Z1 and Preseason Free was so great. Everybody, thank you for watching today's video. If you'd like to see more videos from me discussing H1Z1, I've got a lot of plans in the future. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're brand new, and of course if you guys would like to watch H1Z1 live, I do so on my Twitch channel, which of course will be in the description down below as well. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll catch you next time.